From human bones to a mass dumping ground of remains being found, a key location which Kenny Veach referred to when talking about the location of the M Cave, yet never hiked to in his video. What's really going on over there? Did Kenny Veach sneakily hike over there and something went wrong? Could any of those bones be linked to Kenny? Welcome, join me today as I share with you a new disturbing finding in regard to an alternative location where Kenny Veach may have secretly set out hiking and maybe something did go wrong, but we would not know because all the searches being conducted are up Little Jermay Canyon, and the proof and evidence to suggest Kenny is out that way north because of his phone, his coins being found over there. But is it possible, with his scent ending at the mineshaft, he double-backed on himself and set out to a different destination in hopes of locating the cave? Like Kenny wanted to create a mystery and intrigue, but he didn't want anyone else to take the glory or find it, but he still wanted to retain the popularity and possible growth on YouTube. You never know. And whilst having opportunistic behaviour and chasing a goal, things can go unexpectedly downhill and you can find yourself in dark places. Is that what happened to Kenny Veach? Because when you look back at his original first comment in regard to the M Cave, this is what he had to say about the location. "This ain't nothing. I'm a long distance hiker. One time during one of my hikes out by Nellis Air Force Base, I found a hidden cave. The entrance to the cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly, I became very scared and hightailed out of there. That was one of the strangest things that ever happened to me." Notice how when Kenny gave the location, he did not acknowledge the hike route that he actually did in his M Cave hike video or the one before it on his unrecorded one. He doesn't acknowledge Little Jermay Canyon, neither does he acknowledge the Nellis bombing range test range site. Instead, he refers to it as Nellis Air Force Base. That's east of Las Vegas, the outer skirts, and the closest mountains to that area where you can hike is known as Frenchman Mountains and Sunrise Mountains. Now, you could ask yourself, would Kenny Veach honestly make such a big mistake when it's at least a 30+ mile difference in distance from one location to the place he actually recorded his hike? Well, when it comes to Kenny's contradictions, how he switches and changes in behaviour, anything is possible. At times when he exaggerates too, you never know, he could have exaggerated about the location or purposely caused misdirection one way to then go the other. Nevertheless, it's what was found at Frenchman Mountains. For example, in the past, I did a video of human remains being found. Now, it didn't seem to be updated at the time, didn't really go anywhere, but there's been a follow-up article which I'm going to share with you today, amongst a couple of other articles when it comes to human remains, bones, possible homicide. In such a touristy area, would you expect that level of activity when in consideration it's not far from a military base? Nevertheless, if an M Cave was to be out that way and Kenny Veach hiked there at some point, and there's every chance that he did in the past, whether he was looking for the cave or not, with it being close to Las Vegas and him being an avid hiker, you never know. It's worth ticking it off the list and going in deeper to the mysterious Frenchman Mountains, because why are there human remains over there? Why is there a mass dumping ground? Is something more sinister going on over there? And did Kenny Veach get caught up within it? The first article we'll start with is by Fox 5 Vegas, published January 17th, 2025, one of the more recent ones. The title, Animal dumping ground discovered during search for missing dog near Frenchman Mountain. Now, the key behind this is when you're looking for one thing that may be missing, it's what you can come across unexpectedly along the way, which turns out more darker and sinister than what you could possibly imagine. And considering this location of all places, how it was regarded in the news report as away from businesses and most humans, but you can get away with more things over here, well, the same could apply to Little Jermay Canyon. But for some reason, Kenny Veach referring to this location indirectly, did he come across something no one else saw? There are overlapping patterns. And speaking of finding additional bones, when it came to Gene Lukowski in earlier days, claiming to be a part of the Red Rock Search and Rescue or a volunteer crew, claimed that there was another private search conducted years later near Dead Man's Canyon or Blackgate Canyon, in which a femur bone was found. Eventually it turned out to be animal, but nevertheless there was claims of they were searching for another missing person. So how many missing things are out there? And out of all that's missing, what is found, and then what is indirectly encountered? As we begin reading, there is some footage as well, which I'll play to you shortly. Animal dumping ground discovered during the search. Las Vegas, gruesome discovery near Frenchman Mountain. Animal dumping ground. Volunteers out looking for a missing dog say instead they found dozens of dead animals. Fox 5 also went out to the scene. Kim Pessoff reports hidden off the highway was an above-ground graveyard with all kinds of animals in various states of decomposition, some clearly freshly dumped. Fox 5 is choosing not to share those images. The fact that it says reports that hidden off the highway, just like how Kenny Veach said near Nellis Air Force Base, which would be considered Frenchman Mountains, of a hidden M cave. So how close do you have to get in order to find this type of stuff? Along East Lake Mead Boulevard, the road out to Lake Mead from the city, just past Frenchman Mountain, there is a wash next to the highway, not far from a hiking trail. The picturesque landscape has become a horrific dump site. Dead or dying animals have been thrown out with mounds of trash. In quotes, the smell of decomposing bodies was horrendous. It's unbelievable, like I can't even wrap my mind around it, shared Joyce Foreman, a volunteer with animal rescue group Paws Patrol. Foreman helps people find their missing dogs and went there Saturday morning after a missing dog was spotted by a hiker. And this is the key thing, as you'll find with some of the other articles later, when finding human remains, it was by another hiker. Not search and rescue, but a just general public person. So like with the Kenny Veach case and Little Jermay Canyon, if by any chance Kenny was out there, he's more likely to be found by a stray hiker than search and rescue, etc. Things like that can happen. However, the exception in the case with Kenny, those that go out to Jermay Canyon are specifically looking for Kenny and the cave, whereas somewhere like Frenchman Mountains, Sunrise Mountains, where it's a bit more touristy, people may indirectly come across something they weren't intending on searching in the first place. And that's kind of how it crosses over here. So Foreman helps people find their missing dogs. And in quotes, his name is Grizzly. He's a cane corset. We've been out in the area searching for him. Foreman revealed just steps away from where she parked, the animal lover spotted something that made her heart drop. In quotes, the first thing we noticed when we were out here was there was a clear bag right here in this dark area. There was a deceased German Shepherd inside. Foreman recounted that was just the beginning of the horrific discoveries. From dogs, chickens, goats, sheep, I bagged and picked up 16 animals. We counted more, Foreman explained. Those were mostly dogs, including a litter of puppies. In quotes, they were just all laying there next to each other, wrapped in paper towels. They were little pug puppies. It's horrible. I mean, it's gut-wrenching. They had no chance. Contended foreman. Some animals are just dumped right on the side of the road. As Fox 5 was driving near the wash area, we spotted a dead sheep right on the side of the highway. Now, the mention of a wash, how things can wash up if it has rained with time, that the wash, depending on the depth, can remain somewhat hidden, or it can hide things within. So if you are passing on by or at a slight distance, you may not see it. So cross over to the Kenny Veach case and the search for the M cave or Kenny's body. When you find certain washes from a distance, you may not know what's there. It can be a blind spot. With the Dylan Rounds case and the possibilities of could he be in a wash or buried somewhere, those washes were quite deep. And when there was heavy rainfall or floods, it could reveal or it could fill up an area by pushing debris onwards and revealing or covering stuff up. The same could apply to the Kenny Veach case and certain searches conducted where 1 minute the wash looks a certain way, and then when they've come back again later, the terrain's changed slightly, the visual look of it. It can differ from place to place, and depending on how deep the wash is and how much rainfall it can get at times. Besides that, they spotted a dead sheep present, in quotes. Probably some of it is still out there, foreman stated about other dead animals. Why has the area near Frenchman Mountain become an animal dumping ground? One reason is the remoteness of the location. There are no homes or businesses nearby, no eyes watching. As to why someone would leave an animal to die or dump a dead one, foreman says she can only speculate. Perhaps the animals were sick and the owners not wanting to pay for vet bills, or perhaps something more sinister. Whatever the case, she says, groups like hers are always there to help, so it never comes to this. Now, with the mention of remoteness of the location near Frenchman Mountains, if it is a touristy area, but it's still regarded as remote and no eyes watching, it's quite possible that Kenny was out over that way and there was no witnesses at the time. That when Kenny Veach did come across the M cave, first or second time round, no one else was present. No one else came across it if it was hidden as Kenny described. But the mention of this animal dumping ground, the question would be, is it by the same individual or multiple? And the possibilities of it being more sinister. Did Kenny Veach indirectly come across it himself or something similar in the past, which he wasn't supposed to see? And things went south real quick. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. In quotes, we have people every day that reach out to us, whether it's for food, whether it's for looking for, to rehome, or just surrendering their pets, and we are happy to provide that information, try and assist them, foreman reported. The dead dogs, 12 of which were all scanned for microchips, then taken by Clark County Animal Protection Services for cremation. 5 years ago, Fox 5 reported on a similar animal dumping ground near Frenchman Mountain. 5 years ago. Not quite the time of when Kenny went missing, but close enough. So it's happened on different occasions and it's spread out over time. How far back does it truly date to? Did Kenny Veach come across it at some point? Because people bring it up about Kenny Veach in Little Jermay Canyon coming across the cartel or drug dealing or military, an intervention, a kill, a hit, taken out, kidnapped. If all that is welcomed, so this may be as well, right? We asked both Clark County and the BLM if this has been a reoccurring issue and what's being done about it. Clark County Animal Protection Services urges the public to report any suspected instances of animal dumping. If the public witnesses someone discarding an animal in unincorporated Clark County, please attempt to safely gather the following information: license plate, vehicle description, and any other identifying information, and report it to Clark County Animal Protection Services. And in terms of what we've got here, Clark County Animal Protection Services, type dead dog, animal type total, ×4 dogs. I think this might be to do with the puppies. Comment, Any northeast of the town, heading east on Lake Mead, just before, location given, 4 pug puppies in box. Also stated there are deceased animals out there. In addition, the call date, the 1st of the 11th, 2025, at 11:51 a.m, nearly 12 o'clock. New date, the 1st of 11th, same date. Dispatch date, same day, 7 minutes later. And working date at 12:44. Interesting. Name, unnamed. Type, dog. Gender, you. Age, not given. Breed, pug. Sequence 2. What's this one about? Seems to be this, what's this? Pitbull type dogs. All right. And then the other one, the German Shepherd, which was dogs times 3. And the one above times 4. So a handful of dead dogs amongst other dead animals, all disposed by the same person or what? That's a mystery. Sequence 4, 1 dead dog, a terrier type, breed. Sequence 5, unloading, dog times 12, common unloading. Activity animal, pug. Activity memos, I arrived at Lake Mead Boulevard, investigate dog. Upon arrival, I was waved down by a HFA who advised they were the PR for the 4 pug puppies. The individual escorted me to where the deceased bodies were located. I saw 4 pug-type puppies in a box. All appeared to have died within the past 24 to 48 hours. So take in mind, some of this, more recent, doesn't link to Kenny. However, there is one particular case of human remains being found, and it didn't give a date as to when it happened or when the person likely died. So do stick around for that, because it does build and strengthen the possibilities. At this moment then, it reads here, based on the warmth of the bodies, as the estimated time of death, I scanned for microchips, none found. I impounded and loaded all the dogs to be en route to TFA. As I was impounding, PR advised they had found several other deceased bodies in the area. We located 4 deceased pitbull-type dogs in the surrounding area. Furthermore, we discovered 3 deceased German Shepherd-type dogs, as well as 1 deceased small terrier type. Some bodies were more decomposed than others. I scanned all bodies for microchips, none found. I impounded and loaded onto the truck to be en route to TF for the proper disposal. I provided PR at CCAPS notice for further questions or concerns. Some dates given too. Clark County report. The area is Bureau of Land Management land. Fox 5 asked the following questions and got these responses. Question 1. How big of a problem is animal dumping in the desert areas around Las Vegas, especially in this area near Frenchman? Illegal dumping of all kinds on public land is a big issue throughout Las Vegas Valley, where public lands meet developed areas. Animals are also included in this illegal dumping. When Molly was out, we took her to an area right along the side of the road with multiple animals. Whose responsibility is it to patrol to this area? Metro, BLM. Both the Metro and the BLM patrol the areas, and we have limited resources. The BLM covers 3.1 million acres of land in southern Nevada and a significant urban nature interface. Question 3. Any idea why so many animals end up dead there? What can be done to stop it? And the response was, I don't think there is a catch-all for why people dump dead animals or any illegal dumping of items. Some people don't know it's the wrong thing to do. Some people don't think they have other options. Some people don't care and do it intentionally. There's also no catch-all for how to stop it. We do work with the Metro to increase patrols in problem areas. It helps but doesn't solve the base problem. Our big push is educating people on why they should be good stewards of their public lands and the damage illegal dumping does to the land. With taking that in mind and the footage that was provided of the area, it is rather shocking and disturbing, but how does it ultimately link to Kenny, or how could it as a theory which has not been talked about before? when incorporating the possibilities of when out in the desert hiking and in a remote area where there's not as many eyes, illegal activity can take place, whether it be dumping of animals or other darker things and mysterious stuff. Did Kenny Veach walk in on it? Was stumbling about, hiking, noticed it? You got to take in consideration that with Kenny being a spiritual person and stated on his Facebook post page that life is like a playground, make the most of it, appreciate and value life as what he did. And with appreciating nature, wildlife, animals, I'm sure if Kenny came across something like that, it would be deeply upsetting to him. Did he try intervening? Did he try calling police? Was he stopped or apprehended by those responsible for dumping animals? People could say, but the dates, the timings are off. That's 2025. Kenny went missing in 2014. That's true. However, we got to take in consideration, it said it's been known to happen multiple times in the past at Frenchman Mountain, for example, and in other areas of the desert. So even if you didn't believe it to be this spot where Kenny was hiking, for example, maybe towards Little Jermay Canyon or a bit further back, there could have been bones dumped there too, which Kenny came across. Different ways of looking at it if you don't believe in the location. But I'm basing it off Frenchman Mountains because it's near to Nellis Air Force Base, which is near to the hiking area. And Kenny did say in his own words, he came across the M Cave near Nellis Air Force Base. So word for word, it is correct, as in what we're looking at today. Of course, his footage is somewhere else, Little Jermay Canyon, which is north. And his phone and coins being found over that way too. Oh, so it must mean he's definitely over there. Well, has his body been found? No. Is there proof that he's dead? No. Especially in that location. So, could he have gone elsewhere? He may have staged it, that he went over that way, but maybe the location of the cave could be elsewhere. Cause misdirection, create a mystery, benefit from it. His video on his YouTube channel has adverts. Whether that was automatic by YouTube or if he was monetized secretly in the background, you can see how one could gain from it to some extent with time, maybe opportunistic behavior. Just depends on your general outlook. But I think there's a fair point to mention that because Kenny Veach is into wildlife, nature and animals and values it, if he did come across any dumping of dead animals or the process of killing animals, he may have stepped in. But in doing so, could have endangered his own life. And maybe he got taken out too or disposed of. Whether that links onto the next few articles, what we're going to look at, it's just worth taking into consideration. If Kenny was out hiking looking for the cave or going back to the true location of the cave, maybe, and then he indirectly came across something like that. And taking consideration, it did say 5 years beforehand it was ongoing, this dumping of animals. So the earlier it dates back, the closer it is to when Kenny went missing. And it probably happened more times before that too. In recent time, 2025 onwards, it's become more apparent. There's been more patrols, more authority out there. But in the earlier days of when it was going on, it wasn't as widely known or reported on. So there's less patrols, less eyes on the scene and area. So Kenny Veach being out there as a lone individual, even more vulnerable and less known of, less patrols, less eyes on the ground. So if anything did happen to Kenny, it probably wouldn't have been witnessed by anybody else. So that's worth taking into consideration. Besides that, we should move on to human remains, because people have been found dead out there too at Frenchman Mountains. As with a disturbing event that occurred February 19th, 2024, reported on by 8 News Now, the title "Hiker Discovers Possible Human Remains Near Frenchman Mountains in East Las Vegas Valley." Frenchman Mountains once again, and a hiker indirectly coming across it. If we scroll down, Las Vegas, a hiker found possible human remains, Las Vegas Valley, according to Metro Police. The hiker found a skull and several bones in the mountainous area where the terrain is difficult to hike in. And taking that in mind, For someone like Kenny Veach, that might be a bit of a challenge, but worthwhile for him because he likes going off the beaten path. So even in a supposed touristy area, there'll always be alternative routes going off path, off track, which Kenny would be known to do. Was Kenny's skull found, as well as several bones in this mountainous area? Search and rescue officers recovered the remains and took them to the coroner. Police said it is difficult to determine whether the death was accidental, as there were only bones and some tendons still present. No other details are available at this time. That's rather interesting, the fact that the full body supposedly wasn't found there. So, was it scattered about by animals? Is that what you can apply to Kenny Veach if he did succumb to the environment out there? Accidental, recklessness, self-inflicted, or by the hands of somebody else? That when left out due to the environment, the terrain, the weathering, and more so the wildlife, scattering his bones, spreading them out far and wide, yet there was still some main pieces left behind, that being the skull, which I'm guessing the teeth were included too. The mention of tendons, does that imply that it was more recent, besides when it was reported on or around? Well, we're taking that into consideration. Over here, by David Charms, the coroner determines remains found outside Las Vegas are human. So I believe this is where it adds on. Remains discovered earlier this week on Frenchman Mountain on the boundary of the East Las Vegas Valley are human. The coroner's office confirmed Wednesday. News now. A hiker found a skull and several bones in a mountainous area on Monday, police said. Police added it was difficult to determine whether the death was accidental, as there were only bones and some tendons. The spokesperson said it will take time to identify to whom the remains belong to. Now, were they identified? Was an update given? Well, from the looks of it, doesn't seem to be the case. We're taking that in mind, the uncertainty and unknown. Furthermore, no updates provided, despite me possibly doing some coverage in the past about it in the earlier days when it came about. Some people suggested maybe it's more recent. If a hiker came across some bones and it's out in the open, surely people would have come across it much earlier on if it was to do with Kenny Veach. Well, it depends on how open they were in the first place and where exactly they were found. If it was near or at a wash or a bit beyond, maybe due to rainfall, it could have washed it down the mountain, washed it up, may have revealed it, unearthed it from the ground if it was somewhat buried or slightly covered. You never know. But the main theme and factor is that it doesn't give a clear date or a time of death. So it's on the table, the possibilities that it could apply to Kenny Veach. And if it did, would we ultimately know about it though? Well, if you think about the search and rescue and the lack of family openly talking, would it have come to anything at the end of the day? Okay, you had that documentary that came out at some point, but I believe that was in 2021. This article, what we just looked at, was in 2024. So it couldn't have been included in the documentary originally. So anything had transpired after that point, and if it was said privately in the background, would the victim's family, would the supposed ex-girlfriend reveal it public? Likely not, because in the early days of the search and beyond, things went quiet real quick and it felt like people gave up on Kenny too soon. There wasn't really any mourning or any post or any comments on Kenny's Facebook page honouring him or saying, "We miss you, rest in peace." The lack of emotional presence there, at least on the public surface level, was evident. People deal with grief and react differently privately, and that's understandable. But considering how popular this case is, would we have known something by now? It all comes down to how and when and if those reached out to the family and if it was to do with Kenny Veach. But because it remains a mystery and unknown of, it can still apply to what if Kenny Veach was found out by Frenchman Mountains, and what would he be doing out there? Likely searching for the M Cave, considering that's where he originally described it at. With the mystery of unidentified human remains still continuing on, it highlights the possibility that it could apply to Kenny Veach, but furthermore, the place gets even more darker when you look back to what happened in 2018, a supposed homicide in Frenchman Mountains. The name of the website of this article is by Review Journal. The title, Body Found During Search for Hikers on Frenchman Mountain. Bit of a different way of putting it compared to the previous articles of just a member of the general public hiking out there in nature, getting fresh air and unexpectedly stumbling upon things they weren't expecting. In this case, it's like a search for missing people and in the process coming across a dead body. Here's a photo which overlooks the view of Frenchman Mountain from Clark County, the Wetlands Park. Very mountainous, tall, the type of location where Kenny Veach probably would be inspired to climb up or explore about and around, especially off the beaten path, because I'm sure there are areas like that out there. And the unexplored locations, or where less hikers go to, is more likely where Kenny Veach would be at if he was searching for the M Cave, or when he first came across it, for example. This was January 19th, 2018 at 1:31 a.m. Las Vegas police are investigating a homicide after a search and rescue helicopter spotted a body in the desert area north of Sunrise Mountain while searching for a pair of hikers. Now, was the pair of hikers missing? From the looks of it, yes. The body was found about 3:10 p.m. near Frenchman Mountain Road, according to the Metropolitan Police Department. And below that, Homicide Lieutenant Dan McGrath said an investigation was opened after police discovered the body had been stabbed about 6 times. Metro later said the body was shot too. Police said the body appeared to have been there for more than a day. The hikers, of whom was suffering a head injury, were found and safely taken down the mountain, police said. So whilst out searching for the missing people or the stranded ones, they were okay, but indirectly coming across a dead person too, with no, I guess, relation to these other hikers. But still, it just goes to show there is an overlap of events. You're going out there for one reason, you come across something else. You're dealing with one problem and then another one opens up. And as with Kenny Veach, if it was applied to him, likely this victim wasn't Kenny Veach, because it does say it was like a day or two or more than a day that the body has been there for. And this dates back to 2018, not 2014. But the theme of how a person can die, and in an area like that, which appears to be somewhat dangerous and dodgy and illegal activity, if Kenny was out there, how safe would he really be? Could he be unfortunate, wrong place, wrong time, like how this victim was? It's worth taking into consideration. The Clark County Coroner's Office will release the man's identity as well as his cause and manner of death once his next of kin is notified. But did the next of kin who was notified reveal it or bring it up? Well, 2018, and when looking at the general news online, I couldn't come across it or find it. I said maybe it differs because I'm not in the US, so some things may show up, other things may not. But still, this particular case isn't to do with Kenny Veach, but the themes about it, you never know. The theme of a gun being shot. People always say, oh, Kenny Veach did it to himself. Could someone have shot Kenny Veach instead? Yeah, but wouldn't there be evidence and remains and trails of blood left behind? Well, if it happened in a certain place, yes, but has that certain place been searched? Maybe not. It is important to note that if by any chance that Kenny Veach did come across the M Cave down here, did he also disappear in this area too? Is it possible to have a hybrid, that when Kenny Veach was originally hiking out near to Nellis Air Force Base, as you see over that way, over there, that Frenchman Mountains, Sunrise Mountains, in this area, he came across the M Cave, but for some reason, when he actually went back out to relocate it, he went in a completely wrong area. Is that even possible? or down to the mental state and the psychological impacts of his own mind and how he thinks? Could he have got confused? Could he have become more familiar with a different area and just completely messed it all up? You never know. It's always worth acknowledging. If it was true that Kenny Veach came across the cave somewhere in this mountainous area off the beaten path, higher up elevation on the side of a mountain, well, there are mountains here, so it qualifies for that. There are caves as well in this area, which I'll do a separate video on. It's a very interesting finding by one person in the past, type some loose ends. If Kenny Veach did go out here and went missing, and it kind of ties in with the theme of coming across animals being dumped, coming across the wrong crowd of people trying to intervene and being taken out for that and dumped where or placed where, or similar to like the homicide, being shot, being stabbed. Did Kenny encounter that somehow because he was out there, wrong place, wrong time, desolate, remote, certain time of the day, came across something he wasn't supposed to, more inwards or on the outer part, whether he even made it out to begin hiking or he was on the way back from somewhere and he intended on getting back, but something happened to him by the hands of other people. If any of that did occur, what about his mode of transportation? Because we can't deny it. It is a fact that Kenny's vehicle was found at Joe May Road. So I don't know if it's going to process because I'm moving about so much. But Joe May Road here, it's called Joe May Canyon, but it's Joe May Road, that dirt road. Kenny's vehicle was parked up round this area and his phone found up that way, which would obviously imply, and as a bit of evidence, say he's out there and he's north and he's up Little Joe May Canyon, where his scent ended at the mine shaft. He didn't go on beyond that point because his scent ended there, so maybe he double backed on himself, but his vehicle was left behind. So how could he leave the area then, picked up by someone else? And if he was picked up by someone else, did that mode of transportation take him to a different location to explore and hike out? And did it go well? Did it go wrong? What ultimately happened? Or did they drive Kenny elsewhere to start a brand new life? There's that too. I just noticed that canyon called Ew Canyon. Okay, nice to know. But I'm sure I mispronounced it. It's not the end of the world. But we're coming back to down this way, Frenchman Mountains, Sunrise Mountains. If by some chance Kenny did come out this way and was dropped off by someone, who was that someone? And they still technically would have reported him missing too late if it was like the girlfriend, for example. There wasn't enough clarity, I guess, by people in the background as to the true mine shaft. If we're talking about Little Joe May Canyon, if we're talking about over this way, would the people, like in the documentary, have made it clear whether it was Frenchman Mountains, Sunrise Mountains, or, as we've known all this time, Little Joe May Canyon? Does it throw a spanner in the works when covering this area and location? See, this is what I mean. There's different ways of looking at it. Maybe the likelihood of Kenny going out to one place, staging it, then coming here, and then something bad happening to him. A certain mode of transportation would be required by the hands of someone else to pick him up at Joe May Road, to come on down here, to be dropped off possibly, because there was no report of any abandoned vehicle here onwards. Kenny would need a ride, and probably someone that knows him, and then surely they would have reported him missing afterwards and made it clear that they were last seen and last dropped him off in a location like this. So maybe Kenny Veach didn't go on to this location to search for the cave, but it's still possible that he once was hiking here when he came across the possible true M cave, just simply based on his wording when he was out by Nellis Air Force Base, which word for word is this area here, Nellis Air Force Base, word for word. I know people can say maybe Kenny made a mistake. Yeah, maybe he did. Maybe he made many mistakes. And where does it stop? At what point? That's what you got to ask yourself. So you look at the earlier messages and comments, because like in true crime cases, some of the early recounts of events, witnesses that speak early on may tell more truth than they do later on down in the case due to memory loss and confusion and all kinds of contradictions. So look back at the earlier comments, the origins of it all, and the origins point to Frenchman Mountains because it's the closest to the Air Force Base and where Kenny said he found a hidden cave. And there are hidden caves in this area, and some really do stand out. Maybe not so much the shape, but the depth. the exploration factors about it compared to the likes of Joe May Canyon. And I said I'll do a separate video on that. If Kenny Veach found the cave over this way, then why the hell did he not go back to it and record? Why would he go to a completely different canyon in a completely different direction? As said, there's different ways of looking at it. If it was to cause misdirection, he would have been successful. But is it somewhat possible that you could add in a third factor, not quite a crossroad, but getting close to that, where Kenny found a cave in one place but went elsewhere to cause the misdirection, but in doing so and causing the misdirection on that day, something bad did happen to him, which he wasn't anticipating. He was trying to set up a mystery, but someone set him up. He was trying to lead people into the wrong direction, but in him doing so, he led himself into unknown danger waiting out for him. And you could add it in with the crossroad that whilst Kenny Veach may have come across an M cave or so, whether that be Frenchman Mountains or beyond, but because of where he was actually hiking out at the end of the day, being a different place. Where's the compass gone? That's weird. By hiking out in a completely different place at some point and recording footage of it, did it catch the interest of the military, in which what Kenny Veach claimed to have found or seen was elsewhere, but where he was causing misdirection, but where he was, there was something else there which he didn't know of, but the military got mixed up and confused and thought what Kenny was talking about was here, not Frenchman Mountains, so the military decided to take some form of direct action. So when Kenny Veach did go out there to cause misdirection, he was unaware of what was to come next, because of intervention by military. That can make it a crossroad of possibilities all linked together to explain why he's out here, why his vehicle's there, why he made reference to a different location before that, and whilst he was trying to create a mystery, things backfired in the process. It's quite a mouthful, that, but it's trying to make sense of it all. All in all, it appears that around the surrounding area of Frenchman Mountains and more inwards, there's some dark, sinister stuff going on, and it appears to be a bit of a dodgy area. So if Kenny Veach was there at any point or time, wrong place, wrong time, it could have gone wrong depending on your outlook of the case and the different theories provided. But I just wanted to merge it all together and get a hold of these different articles with time. The fact that there is at least one human remains body, skull, bits of bone, tendon that was found out there in 2024, even though the dating is quite modern, there's no reference of how far it dates back to and how it was revealed or found. Was it revealed by weathering? Was it revealed by a wash, flow of water over time? Bones and stuff disturbed from the ground in the past, covered up, and then the rest not present, so maybe wildlife responsible for scattering it, like how it could happen to Kenny Veach wherever he is in a desert, if that was true, being scattered, making it harder to find or retrace the people. I think I did do some coverage in the past, maybe of the 2024 situation of Frenchman Mountains or something similar, and it said about human remains, but not identified as to whom it was. And look, till this day, I tried looking and still didn't really find anything, at least what I have access to. So if it does remain a mystery and it's like open, who knows who it could be? Could it link to Kenny Veach? You could make the argument, yeah. But if it was, would we have known by now? Wouldn't the family have blurted it out or talked about it openly? Would they really, though? Because the way this case has gone, and if there is any cover-ups, there's not enough people on the inside speaking up saying, don't be going out there searching, it's not worth your time. The only person that has spoken up along the lines of that, shown concern for other hikers, would be Susan Veach. Now, it's not met with the best reception because some people have interpreted what Susan Veach has said as trying to deter people from going and finding the truth out there. But from what Susan Veach has said about the whole cover-up and Kenny not actually out there staging his disappearance, Kenny indirectly or purposely getting people to risk their lives in search for Kenny, all for it being a wild goose chase. And if Susan believes that or knows that, she doesn't want hikers wasting their time, their money, their lives on someone that doesn't want to be found, but purposely encourages and entices people out in a dangerous area. I do get all that, but, you know, whilst the majority of family members or other people in the background not willing to talk or open up, even like search and rescue, if Kenny had been found or remains were found, would it really make headlines after all this time and even the case going cold so quickly, the feeling of people giving up on it? I don't think it would. unless a big YouTube channel got a hold of the information, did a video about it, or official news media decided to do some coverage on it, if they got a hold of the news, and then it exploded from there. But if it's only the family or certain key people inside that are informed about it, and they grieve or they react silently and in private, that's understandable. But the word's probably not going to get out, and it's not really going to be talked about much. So some things can just fade and occur and then fade, and we don't know on the surface level. It's what's going on underground, not quite literally. But speaking of underground, when you think of the environment, the desert, the terrain, who knows what is going on, and even inside, such as of mountains. So hopefully you found the video somewhat interesting today. There's more to come, more different ideas, and I might do a live stream at one point just to make things clearer. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. Make sure all your notifications, the bell symbol is turned on for this channel so you don't miss anything. That's always important. And for anyone that isn't notified of my post, my short clips, my live streams, normal videos, double check the bell icon on your subscription feed or on this channel page, just to make sure they're all ticked so you're notified. And if you just simply want to catch up on previous videos and ones you've missed out on in the past and for other context, you'll find it all available in the full playlist of Kenny Veach, top right corner where the eye symbol is up there, along with some loose videos attached. And if you want to support the channel, down below in the comment section, pinned message with PayPal link and channel membership. And if you got any thoughts, theories, whether you agree or disagree with Frenchman Mountains, the darkness behind it, the possibilities of Kenny Veach and M-Cave and all of that, questions, answers, just leave it all below under the video. It does help. It spreads the awareness, creates new discussions, and I can respond back, reply shortly afterwards. With that all being said, appreciate you watching. My name's Warlike Raf. Goodbye. Good night for now.